You land at Philadelphia International, and the city finds you before you've even grabbed your bag. Not aggressively. More like it just assumes you already agree with it about everything. The guy next to you at baggage claim will volunteer that the Eagles got robbed in the 2005 Super Bowl. He is factually incorrect. He is aware of this and has decided it doesn't matter. Lincoln Financial Field is 3.4 miles from the airport. That number is going to come up again. FIFA gave Philadelphia 6 matches. That's not nothing. 6 chances for a city that has been watching football in a bowl for over 20 years to show a global audience what it actually feels like when the crowd runs on its own internal pressure rather than waiting for a DJ to tell it when to be loud. The sports complex sits in South Philly. The Eagles, the Phillies, the Flyers, the Sixers, all within walking distance of each other, wrapped in parking lots the size of small counties, all funneling into the same roads, the same train line, the same choke points. On a regular game day, the neighborhood absorbs it fine. On a World Cup day with 69,196 people arriving from everywhere at once, the math doesn't hold. What you need to understand before you book anything, the entire complex sits at the bottom of Broad Street, one long corridor that runs straight north into Center City. One road, one train line, everything squeezing through the same bottleneck for 4 hours on either side of kickoff. It works beautifully when it works. When it doesn't half fail, it just stops. Completely. Like it's offended you assumed otherwise. From the airport to the Linc is, again, 3.4 miles. Uber before 10 a.m. on match day. Somewhere between $12 and $18, maybe 9 minutes. After 11, add 20 minutes to whatever your app says. Afternoon, the Pattison Avenue interchange is already full of people who also thought they were leaving early. The I-95 interchange nearby isn't in better shape. You'll sit there doing mental math about whether you could walk it faster. You might be right, actually. Rental car is around $55 a day. Parking runs $40, which sounds reasonable until you factor in what happens when 22,000 cars try to exit through 4 corridors simultaneously. Post-game egress on a normal Eagles Sunday runs 45 to 75 minutes. World Cup Day, with international visitors who have no mental map of the exits and are absolutely not in a rush, will run longer. Nobody will give you an honest estimate of how much longer. That should tell you something. The answer most people sleep on is the SEPTA Broad Street line. AT&T station is directly at the stadium, not nearby, not a shuttle, not a 10-minute walk. You come out the gate and the entrance is right there, like someone who actually cared about solving a problem designed it back in 1996 instead of retrofitting a solution 20 years later. Express trains into Center City take about 12 minutes and run every 4 to 6 minutes during events. SEPTA has been doing this for Eagles games for decades. They know the rhythm. The trains aren't luxurious. After 4 hours in that bowl in June heat, luxurious isn't what you need. Here's the thing though, there's a window. Leave within 25 minutes of the final whistle, and you're on a train in under 10 minutes. Wait 45 and the platform stacks. Wait 90, and you're standing in a tunnel with 4,000 other people who also thought waiting would help. It does not help. The platform doesn't thin out. It redistributes the misery into a longer, slower queue. If you're meeting anyone after the match, agree on a meeting point now before you go in. Cell signal inside a full bowl is unreliable. It's not the moment to discover that. LincolnFinancialField opened in 2003. $512 million. It replaced Veterans Stadium, which Philadelphia demolished with something that looked a lot like joy. The Vet was genuinely hated. Cold concrete, artificial turf that wrecked knees, sightlines that felt designed by someone who had never personally attended a sporting event. The Linc was the correction. Not a renovation, a full replacement, built specifically to fix every grievance the previous stadium had spent 33 years generating. Philadelphia held the grudge. The bulldozers were the apology. Capacity is 69,996. FIFA bumps it toward $70,000 for group stage. The field dimensions already work. NFL configuration is close enough to FIFA standard that the conversion is mostly remarking lines and adjusting some temporary seating along the end zones. There is no roof. Philadelphia in June averages around 82 curve with humidity that drifts up off the Delaware and parks itself in the bowl. No shade structure over the upper deck. For a 3 p.m. kickoff, the sun will be at exactly the wrong angle for the entire first half. And yes, it's always the wrong angle. This is not a coincidence. This is just how that orientation works. The stadium allows sealed plastic bottles through the gates. That's technically a policy. It is also functionally a survival tip disguised as a policy. Bring more water than you think you'll need. Seriously, bring an amount that feels slightly embarrassing and you'll end up finishing it all. The lower bowl is steep. Rows drop fast toward the field, so row 30 feels closer than it sounds. Sight lines are clean all the way around. No columns, no obstructions, good angles from the corners. The upper deck is tighter than you'd expect for a stadium this age. The bowl was designed compact rather than wide, a decision made in 2001 that turns out to be exactly right for a World Cup crowd that wants to feel inside the game rather than above it. For soccer, the geometry works better than most NFL venues. The wider pitch fits. The steep lower bowl gives you a real downward view of the full field. You can see the shape of the game from up there, the spacing between lines, where space is opening before the ball arrives, which press is about to trigger. At older, flatter stadiums, that view costs you $600. Here it's available for mid-tier sections if you know what you're selecting. Tickets for group stage start around $190. Upper deck corners, you're inside, you can see the field, it counts. $280, $350 gets you mid-level sideline. You follow the game without needing the broadcast to explain what you just watched. $500 and above, lower bowl. The pace reads differently down there. You see gaps before they close. You notice who's talking between set pieces, who's arguing with their marker, who's clearly cooked by minute 65 but not coming off because the manager has already burned 2 subs. Club seating runs $900 to $1,400. Climate-controlled concourse, padded seats, private access. On a humid Philadelphia afternoon, the air conditioning inside the club level stops being an amenity and becomes the exact reason you paid the extra money and feel absolutely fine about that. Food. Beer is $16. The cheesesteak is $14. Yes, they serve cheese steaks. This is Philadelphia. They would not dare cut them from the menu. There would be civic consequences. A soft pretzel is $6, and it's correct in every way. Nachos run $13. You'll spend $50 without really trying. Budget for it up front and stop doing the math. Hotels near the sports complex run $220, $380 a night during World Cup weeks. Center City runs $250, $450. South Philly puts you closer to the stadium, but it goes quiet fast after an event. Center City doesn't. On a World Cup night with fans from a dozen countries still loud in the streets at midnight, you want to be in the city rather than nearby, wondering what's happening 3 miles away. One last thing about Philadelphia. The crowd isn't louder than other cities. It's more present. Eagles fans have a reputation, some of it earned, most of it mythology built over decades of sports radio. What's real is the focus. This city has been watching football in this building for over 20 years. They feel when a play matters before it develops. They pick up momentum shifts before the broadcast team names them, which is either impressive or slightly unsettling depending on how you feel about crowds that operate with a shared nervous system. 70,000 Philadelphia fans in that bowl for a World Cup match don't need music cues. The atmosphere doesn't require management. The noise isn't building toward moments, it's already at a baseline and then it spikes. You'll feel that before the first whistle. You leave on the Broad Street line. 12 minutes to Center City. The city is still fully awake when you arrive. Someone near you on the train is relitigating a second half call. He's probably right. He is definitely not moving on.